Today, I want to talk about Metroid and specifically what we will see Nintendo do with this franchise in 2024, because you're probably well aware of the outstanding big project that we know to expect from the Metroid franchise, which is Metroid Prime 4, and I would say there is a solid shot that 2024 is finally the year that we see this game both revealed to us in terms of gameplay and an in-depth trailer and an actual launch date. Now, whether or not the launch date is in 2024 alongside of something like new Nintendo hardware, that remains to be seen, or maybe it is something that is scheduled out into 2025, but I think this is finally the year that we learn about it, because yeah, we knew about it since 2017. The title got rebooted in 2019 when Nintendo was not happy with the direction it was going in. But if you look at 2019 to 2024, we have a 5-year gap in time, which is more than enough time for most studios to craft an entire start to finish masterpiece. And I think that Retro Studios is definitely taking Metroid Prime 4 very seriously, but I don't think that there's a lot of reason to expect it to take longer than that 5-year timeline from when it was rebooted in 2019. So 2024 does seem to be a logical year, and that's definitely the most concrete, solid title that I personally would expect to see in some way, shape, or form, whether or not it's a launch reveal or just an in-depth look at the game. I think you can safely expect something Metroid Prime 4 to be here in 2024. However, I do also believe that we are going to see Nintendo continue the marketing cycle that we saw from Nintendo for the Metroid Prime series when they launched Metroid Prime 1 Remastered as a shadow drop announcement at the February 2023 Nintendo Direct. I think that when you're releasing a title that has a 4 in it, providing that Nintendo doesn't change the title, Metroid Prime 4 is what we are expecting Nintendo to release, and I think that they will want to have an easy way for fans to experience 1, 2, and 3 if you want to get fully caught up on all of the developments and all of the details of the story of Metroid Prime walking into that 4th release, which would cause you to ask the question, where is Metroid Prime 2 Echoes Remastered and where is Metroid Prime 3 Corruption Remastered? And my personal theory on this is that we will see these games also likely revealed as a shadow drop announcement at an upcoming Nintendo Direct. Could be as soon as the February one that we should expect in 2024. And what will be interesting to see is whether or not Nintendo decides to release these games individually, or if they go the bundle pack route where they actually include 2 in 1. And I could see them potentially doing this, because if you go back to the source of some of these rumors, Jeff Grubb being a big name that's been talking about Metroid Prime 1 Remastered far before it was officially revealed from Nintendo. Sure, he was off on the timing of it. He even bet his hair and beard on the line for it to be released in 2022. And it's almost like Nintendo saw that bet and decided to wait until 2023 to release it just so he would have to shave his head and beard. And he did, a man of his word. But he was very vocal in saying that he heard that Prime 1 was getting a more big boy remaster treatment where the lighting and the textures and everything was essentially reworked for the game. And his understanding was that Prime 2 and 3 were getting a little bit more simple HD up-res, or not quite the same level of a remaster that Prime 1 is getting. And I could see Nintendo maybe even sticking to a $50 or $60 price point, but bundling in the games together, similar to how they did with Pikmin 1 and 2 leading into Pikmin 4's release on the Nintendo Switch. We already had Pikmin 3 released on the Switch and easily playable, obviously, as Pikmin 3 Deluxe, but we did not have Pikmin 1 and 2 playable, and those are GameCube era games that definitely aged in terms of the textures and things, and Nintendo didn't go all out with those particular games. They just gave them an HD upres and some modern quality of life improvements and modern control enhancements and things, and outside of that, they're essentially the same vanilla games that they were back on the GameCube. That's more or less what I'm expecting us to first see before Prime 4, before we get a look at anything. I think Nintendo's going to shadow drop Metroid Prime 2 and 3 potentially as a bundle pack and potentially as simpler remasters than what we saw with Prime 1. In a perfect world, I would love to be wrong about that and expect that those get the same level of treatment that Metroid Prime 1 did, because I think they do deserve that, but I could also see Nintendo treating them a little bit different, since Metroid Prime 1 was definitely the more novel title and it sold a heck of a lot more. It definitely did trend downwards for Nintendo as they continued the Prime releases, so I think they want to revitalize that. I think they want to lead off on the best best foot possible with Metroid Prime 4, and I think the way that they do that is in 2024 at the beginning of the year, giving us that big shadow drop release of Prime 2 and 3. But then the question becomes is, do we learn about Prime 4 at the same event that Prime 2 and 3 is shadow dropped at? And I think there's a strong case for that, but I could also see Nintendo saving Prime 4, its big reveal and release date and all of that, for something like their summertime 2024 Nintendo Direct. We can't say E3 Nintendo Direct because RIP E3, it's dead now. It's a thing of the past. Unfortunately, I never got to go in person, but Nintendo, I still do believe, will hold their traditional summertime Direct like we've seen them do even in years where E3 has not taken place. I think there's no reason not to expect them to continue to do that this year in 2024, and Prime 4 could be a perfect show closer for that. There's also a lot of debate on whether or not we see Prime 4 as a cross-generational title, because the writing's on the wall. We know we're in the tail end of the Nintendo Switch generation, and Nintendo may indeed want to save Prime 4 as something of a visual showpiece to really showcase what the next generation hardware can do, because if you just look at Metroid Prime 1 Remastered and how beautiful that game is on Nintendo Switch hardware, Retro Studios really did top-notch work, and I think that they know how to push the limits of the current Switch, and they would logically know how to carry that forward with way more capable hardware and really make it that wow moment for gamers when it comes to visual fidelity and things like that. And so I am hopeful that when we do indeed find out about Metroid Prime 4, we already know what the loose plans are with Nintendo's next-gen hardware, and we see it launch on both the existing Switch with maybe some more limited frame rates and resolution, and then we see that full technical showpiece shown off on new next-generation hardware. That's what I am personally hoping for. Now, outside of the Metroid Prime conversation, we do also have some outstanding rumors that Mercury Steam, the same company that made Metroid Dread, is indeed working on yet another 2D Metroid game, and based off of the 3 million plus that Metroid Dread sold, it's not the biggest Nintendo franchise by any stretch of the imagination, but I think it was overall viewed as a success for them, and I think that they will continue the 2D installments in addition to the 3D installments with Prime, likely getting a 5th and 6th title after 4 is released. I would assume that they're going to do another trilogy out of this one. Maybe that depends on how well Prime 4 does, but I think that in a perfect world, Nintendo wants Metroid to have the same kind of cycle that Mario does, where of course you have the main AAA 3D installments, but you also have mainline games that are 2D that are just as fun for a lot of fans, or just fun in a different way, a different style of gameplay. And Metroidvania games are not slowing down. They're gaining more momentum over the years. There's tons of them now, and many of them sell very well. And so with my opinion on Dread, it kind of brought back what a Metroidvania game could be in the modern era, pushing it to new heights. And Mercury Steam definitely gained a lot of trust from Nintendo in terms of what they could pull off with an original title, because prior to that, they did of course release Metroid 2 Return of Samus, but that of course was a remake from the Game Boy game, although you could argue they added so much in because obviously the Game Boy was very limited from a hardware standpoint that they really did entirely remake that game with some fresh ideas, but then they pulled off an original title in Metroid Dread and absolutely killed it. So I think it's logical to expect 2D Metroid to come back, but I don't think we see that in 2024. I think that's further off, 2025, potentially even 2026, before we see the next 2D Metroid game. But regardless, there's a lot of reason for Metroid fans to be excited in 2024, and that's where I want to hear from you guys. What do you hope we see from the Metroid franchise in 2024? Do you think there's high likelihood that we do indeed get Prime 2 Echoes and Prime 3 Corruption brought over as a remake or remaster? Do you think it gets the same treatment as Metroid Prime 1 in terms of its graphical presentation, or do you think it's a more simple HD up-res like we saw with Pikmin 1 and 2? Does Nintendo release them in a bundle pack like Pikmin 1 and 2, or do you think that they give them individual releases and they're actually spread out throughout the year of 2024? And do you think that Prime 4 is actually playable in our hands in this upcoming year, or do you think that that's something that could be further off, but we don't get any kind of 2024 release date and it actually slides into 2025? So regardless of your thoughts and feelings on everything we talked about today, I do look forward to hearing from you all in the comments down below before we leave the video, as I do look forward to getting a back and forth conversation started with you all around these topics. Go watch the video on screen next if you haven't already. Also make sure you like, subscribe, turn on your notification bell, and I will see you guys in the next video.